Okay, Freddie, we're on. Welcome once again to this edition of the Old Cow Report. And of course, I'm your host, Chuck Lee, and as usual, coming to you live from the beautiful tire factory here in downtown Eau Claire. And we've had many enjoyable hours down here presenting the show to you and making new tires and watching the rubber trees grow. And of course, with me as usual is my rusty, trusty sidekick, Fred, the Truth Stafford.
Hello, hello, hello.
Glad to have you with us again, Fred, on this. This is what, our 25th year now on the air?
I thought it was longer than that, Chuck.
It must seem longer than that after all these years, Fred. But as usual, boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about on this chilly December 2nd, 1996. Fred, one of the last shows of the year for us. And we're glad you could make it. Glad you found your way down here, Fred. I know you've had some trouble finding your way down here recently, but there's a big event going on tomorrow, Fred. And what's that for you?
I don't know.
You're going to get your driver's license back.
I hope.
Fred's taking his driver's license. And of course, that's because he had a stroke and they want to make sure he can drive. But Fred, you can drive with your eyes shut. And I've seen you do it many times.
Yeah.
So we're glad to see that everything's working there. Fred will be back out there, and I'm sure you'll all be enjoying his driving out there.
Yeah.
Especially on the ice.
Yeah.
All right, Fred, December 2nd, 1927.
Yes.
Henry Ford unveils this car.
What year?
1927. You ought to remember it like it was yesterday.
That was Model A.
The Model A. And were you old enough to have one?
Yes, I had a 29.
You had a 1929, just in time.
I got it in 1938.
I was going to say 1929, just in time for the stock crash. But you waited till after the Depression to buy it, huh?
Yeah.
Just before the war.
The Depression was still going on then, but people didn't know it.
Well, you were out in New York City. Were there really people selling apples on every sidewalk?
Yes.
Street corner?
Well, quite a few street corners. And pencils?
Yeah. I remember reading about the pencils.
Yeah.
A lot of people jumping out of windows?
Well, I didn't know of any that did that, to be very frank.
I guess right there at the beginning of the crash, a few of the brokers and stuff that lost not only their life savings, but hundreds of their clients' life savings took that way out of the situation. Well, Fred, that was 1927, Henry Ford and the Model A Ford. And of course, we've come a long way here in the last close to 70 years now. The 1997s are coming out.
Yes.
I think they're already out.
Yes.
So there you have it, 70 years later.
Uh-huh.
Of course, Fred, this one here, before you ought to remember like it was yesterday, 1840, this guy was elected president. Who was elected in 1840? 20 years before Lincoln was elected. You got to remember that like it was 156 years ago.
Yes.
Do you remember? 1840.
1840. And what am I supposed to remember what happened then?
Who was elected president that year?
1840. Well, I don't think Jackson was elected then. It was just before his time.
Well, in 1812, it was James Madison was reelected.
Yeah.
1840, William Henry Harrison. And there you have it, 1840. Okay, Fred.
Yes.
Well, we have a lot to talk about. And of course, we want to remind you that I think is as of December 1st, you can take out your nomination papers to run for school board here in this area. And the city council president is up for election, and 5 district representatives for the city, and 2 school board members. And that's it, Fred. There's no county board races.
The school board, 2 people are quitting?
2 seats up. No, they're not quitting. There's 2 seats up for election. I don't know if the people in those seats will quit or run again, but there's 2 seats that are up for election there, and there's...
It'd be a good thing if the chairman of the board there would retire.
And then there's 5 district representatives on the city council and 1 city council president. So there you have a chance to elect 6 new people on the city council and 2 new ones on the school board. And of course, the way the school board's set up, not being in districts, Fred, it's who can afford to run citywide or run school district-wide are the ones that get elected. And what they need to do is break that down into
I know.
9 or 11 districts where they have to run only in their districts so they can have better representation and not the rich people or the Southsiders get control of the school board and ram the taxes up like they have over the last 10 years, almost doubling the school board budget. The only way they're going to break that stranglehold that the school board and the elitists have on that, the unions and the elitists have on that school board is to break it down into districts where they have to have district representation. If it's good enough for the Eau Claire City Council, it's good enough for the school board. So there you have it, Freddie.
Yes.
And we do have a guest tonight, Fred, and we haven't heard from this person for many, many weeks, Fred.
You haven't.
So we like to check in every once in a while and find out what's going on and see where we're at on a couple of the local issues. And of course, to do that, we need to talk to the authority on the city council and the school, on the county board issues, the city council issues, and what's on the front burner now, and hopefully she's going to keep it there, is the arena fiasco. And of course, I'm talking about Lorraine the Truth Lee. Lorraine, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay, we got Lorraine on there, and her voice is, you might have to turn up the microphone a little bit in there. Roy Rogers Hoff, and of course I'm speaking about Roy Rogers Hoff, who's related to Hopalong Cassidy on his brother's side. And Roy, how's the sound in there now? Lorraine, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
There, now it's a little bit better. Okay, Lorraine, we haven't talked to you for a while, and I know people are anxious to get their marching orders and to hear what's going on the arena fiasco. And of course, you know the wheels are grinding on the opposition side, the people that are opposite the group that's formed to stop the arena. Of course, there's a pro-arena group that has been grinding their wheels now for a couple years, silently and quietly working towards getting an arena and getting legislation passed locally to help further their cause. And now finally there's an opposition that's formed, and you're involved with the opposition. And what's the name of the opposition group again?
STOP, S-T-O-P, which means senseless taxation on people.
And you can say that again. Of course, you people out there will be getting your tax bills here very shortly, and some of you might be happy because you're not paying more, but a lot of you will be sad because they carved up what little bit of refund we thought we were going to get. And of course, the Eau Claire City Council is looking at reassessing all the property in the city limits again in next year. That means they're going to be coming around, wanting to come in your house, snoop around, and reassess your property and jack up your assessment even higher than it is now so that they can justify raising your taxes. And you know, by law, you don't have to allow them inside your house. They've got the records down there at City Hall. They've got I went down there and looked at them, and they've got pretty much tells how many rooms are in your house. But they want to come in there and sniff around to see what improvements you've done so they can jack up your assessment. By law, you do not have to allow them in. They bluff their way into your house so that they can raise your taxes. You do not have to let them in. Remember that. They might give you scare tactics and threats, and their scare tactics are is by assumption you're assuming that if you don't let them in, they're going to raise your rates on you. But by law, they're not allowed in your house. But they bluff their way in, and in some cases, by fear tactics and scaring you into believing that if you don't let them in, they're going to raise your taxes anyway. But remember, they can stand at the front door and assess your house just as easily as they can by going in the house. If you let them in, they're going to raise your assessment. Okay, Lorraine. And of course, Lorraine, they're going to be coming down there and assessing your house again next year. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know what upsets me more than anything, that anyone with a $33,000 home isn't going to get any reduction. And they're the people that can't afford high taxes they already have. But if you own a $100,000 house, you're going to get a nice big reduction. What's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. But like always, the little guy that pays.
Well, that's
I don't know what that's going to be. I had so many things on my mind these last few weeks that I guess I'll see about that when they rap on my door.
Well, I understand you had some illness in the family, and hopefully now your husband is recovering nicely from his heart attack he had last week. And how's Dick doing?
He's doing fine.
Well, that's good.
A little tired, but he's doing
Well, I suppose, did they have to go in there and do bypass or anything?
well. He had some surgery done, but he's, I don't know.
Angiogram.
Whether I really want to discuss that or not.
Okay, well, we're glad that he's back and
Yeah,
back home.
we are very gung-ho now on getting things ready. Our petitions are ready to be printed.
Okay, now, by petition, what do you mean?
We are sending out a binding referendum petition that is what I think a fair petition would be, because it gives the authorization for certain things so the people that want to vote for it can, and the ones that don't want the way it's going to inevitably be have their chance to vote also.
Okay, so this...
My big concern was I really felt badly. I was supposed to address a group last Tuesday, and of course by Monday I was with my husband in Marshville. But I will tell you that I was contacted by the people of Mankato, and I was shocked. The things they showed me in print, they've been open now for about 2 years, and they can't get anything in there whatsoever, so they're going to turn it into a clubhouse temporarily.
What do you mean? It's Mankato has an arena that they're not running as an arena?
Well, they're trying to, but they can't get the things. And you know, the things that I have said for a long, long time came out in the Kiplinger report from Washington this last time, saying the same thing that I have said. All over the country, the large cities are building the bigger arenas, if you will, or convention centers, and they're just leaving the other people in the dust. Even Minneapolis is not doing so well right now. But you know, I'm no stranger to conventions, Chuck. I co-chaired and worked on the financial part of conventions in the big cities like that all over the country. When we had it in Anaheim, California, well, certainly they had a lot of things for the people to want to come there for. Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, and when we went to Washington, D.C., they had the people tour the White House, even the living quarters of the president. And when we went to Texas, they had the Space Center down there, and
All we got's Paul Bunyan.
well, when I'm trying.
Babe the Blue Ox.
And another thing, you see, when we went to St. Louis, where we had the big one, they have a great big zoo there. Now, how in the world are we going to compete with that here? Are we going to charter a bus and take them up to see Irvine Park with the famous bears?
I heard we're going to bus them up to the cities, to the Mall of America.
Well, that's it. Everybody says around here, well, we got such a beautiful mall. We do have Oakwood Mall, but so does every other medium-sized city in the country. And 90 miles away is the Mall of America. And we just have nothing here to draw the people, and we never will have.
Okay, Lorraine, now getting back to this petition now.
Right.
This will be a binding referendum that will be on the ballot in the spring, the April election coming up.
April 1st.
And it takes what?
Tuesday. And I think that's what they're thinking. When I contacted them down to City Hall and read the referendum wording to them, they tried to give me the same old song and dance. Well, if both of them win, we're heading for court. That's what they said about the change of government last time, just to scare people into voting their way. But I don't think their referendum...
Well, that's what we got city lawyers for. Maybe they should go to court more often.
Well, I don't know, but we're not...
Instead of scaring people into to not standing up to City Hall. That's why the slogan, "You can't fight City Hall," is true, because they give you scare tactics with their lawyers.
Well,
You don't fight out.
For their money one time, a good one.
Okay, now Lorraine, getting back to this petition, now this reminds me back when the 551 ran their petition, so it's going to take about, what, 2,000 signatures to get it on the ballot?
Oh, we're shooting for more than that. No, it's about 2,700.
2,700. And from the time you start, you have how long to get the petition?
Well, I want them done in time. I believe it's the first part of February that it has to be in for the April ballot. But we are getting organized where blocks will be covered by people. So you have more time that way to explain the referendum to the people so they know, you know, what it is, and put their name to it, get it on for a binding referendum.
Okay, all right. And there, of course, is a picture of Lorraine Lee in her No, I'm Conservative sweatshirt, and we have your picture on the air tonight, Lorraine, so the people can see who we're talking with.
Yeah, that's quite a picture, isn't it?
It's a little small. One of these days we'll have to get it blown up to poster size so that there won't be any mistake who we're talking with here.
You mean so they can see the bowl?
So they can see your sweatshirt and, yeah, the bow on there and the peace sign. And
You know, someone made that for me we had our 50th high school class reunion. And so one of the girls said, let's put a no in a great big bowl. I'm Conservative. So that's how that came about.
Okay, well, so Lorraine, now you're gonna the petition drive. So how will it be worded that the city was a little nervous with the way you worded it?
Well, it's a positive fact of how they can, if the people want it, how they can vote for the referendum if they want to use taxes and everything else. If they vote no, it prohibits them from doing so.
So it's going to be simple so that we understand when we go in there to vote, either vote yes or no.
It'll be very well explained because we are very well organized. We are going to be raising more funds shortly, and we won't get free press like City Hall will get, but we will get our word out there. People will understand it, and we are petitioning for binding referendum without alteration. So if they get enough signatures, that's what they're going to have to do according to law.
Okay, now when the Leader Telegram ran a little survey on whether people were interested in the arena, or I guess it was the extending that $15,000 study, they only had something like 16 people out of 104 that said yes. So there wasn't much support for it, but you seem to think that there's going to be an onslaught of pro-arena propaganda here in the next few months?
Well, of course, there always is. But the whole thing is, common sense goes a long ways. I mean, there is no way that they can do this without us paying. And when I can get things together, I have been asked to be in a couple radio shows, which I will do in the next couple weeks as long as I feel that Dick is strong enough for me to be gone. And I am going to literally read the things that came from Mankato, Minnesota. And people don't realize that to bring anything here, you got to put up $60,000 or better just to bring them in here. And if they don't make money on that $60,000, they're not going to come back.
Well, we got some insiders though that'll float money to the right other insider groups that to make their events pan out. But I'm sure the little guy ain't going to be able to walk in there and rent the arena without getting
I tried that in La Crosse for one of my international convention bids, but we couldn't touch it. We couldn't touch it. But you see, there just isn't anything here for people to see. They are building all these things, and people that go to those great big conventions, like international conventions, take a vacation and go. I was co-chair for the one in Milwaukee for 6,000 people, and even there we had problems satisfying them with places to see. Now, what they're going to do? What are they going to see here?
Okay, Lorraine, a bigger question is, though, is why are they wanting to build this $25 or $30 million building and force it on this small of a population? This is going to fall on the backs of the city of people who live inside the city limits. And,
my referendum.
and there's thousands of people in this area that do not pay taxes with inside the city limits. The college students, the people that live in the townships around here, and the people that come in to shop at the malls and stuff. They're going to be coming in and using that, and it's going to fall on the backs of the poor taxpayers within the city limits. And we don't have the tax base like a St. Paul or a Minneapolis does to spread it out. It's only going to be spread out to the few people that own property inside the city limits.
Well, yes, and the whole thing is, look how we can't make ends meet now. Why take a chance on something like this? But we're not going to take the chance, I'll tell you that right now, because it'll act just like it did in some other cities. They'll think until after the election that they're going to drop it, they're not going to go on. But we are coming through with our binding referendum anyway.
Well, Common, what do you think about it? We're going to give you some noogies. What do you think about it, Common? Tell us the truth. Come on, tell us. Yeah, he ain't talking. All right, you chicken. Okay. All right, besides that, Lorraine, we forgot to say that this meeting of the Loyal Order of the Raccoons is now in session. And Lorraine, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and Fred and I decided that we're going to allow women to join. Would you like to join the Loyal Order of the Raccoons?
Well, I don't know how I'd look in your hat, but I might try it.
Okay, all right. Well, tonight we're going to make you and Dick honorary members of the Loyal Order of the Raccoons. So congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you.
We're going to give you lifetime memberships.
All right.
Okay, and
We will have a lot more to report on shortly because we're just getting our committees really oriented here, and I want to have a regular meeting of all those that are going to go out with a petition so that they absolutely know the rules and what they should do and should not do.
now when are you going to have another public meeting?
Well, we're going to have a meeting as soon as we get a report on what we're doing here so that we can get other people involved in the committees. Yeah, I can't tell you right now until we get this one going.
Well, we want to thanks for allowing us to call into your living room and question you. Sorry to hear about Dick. We hope that he recovers real well and gets back on his feet. And
he's doing very well right now. He's a little tired, but that goes along with it, I'm sure.
Okay, well, we'll call back and find out the latest on the arena situation and whatever else but we can always ask your expertise on. We want to thank you for allowing us to question you tonight on that. And of course, Fred says hi too, and we'll talk to you next time then. Okay, Lorraine?
All righty.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye now.
All right, okay there, Freddie. Now,
what
do you got
we
there?
had something very important happened here a short time ago.
what?
We had a communist die.
Who, Gus Hall?
No, Alger Hiss at 92.
Yeah,
He died.
I didn't even know he was still alive.
Well, I didn't know, but here he died a short time ago.
Of course, that ties in with Nixon in the early days and Alger Hiss. And wasn't he a spy for the communists?
Yeah, and he helped to organize the United Nations, giving Russia the 3 votes that they have on the United Nations, etc.
They broke the country up so they had 3 votes instead of 1, huh? Well, now they got something like 15.
Yeah.
It was a pretty smart move on their part to bust up the Soviet Union and still keep it under what they call a loosely knit commonwealth.
Yes.
Now they got, 12, 14 votes instead of 3.
Yeah.
Okay, Freddie, bad news out there.
What do you got there?
There's bad news out there for those of you who belong to or who are members of the cable system here in town, and of course that's Time Warner, and of course they're raising their rates. And of course it is a socialistic monopoly because there's not another cable system down the road that you can go down there and call and say, hey, I want your cable because it's cheaper than Time Warner. Time Warner has an exclusive contract with the city of Eau Claire, which is running out here in a few years. But they're taking full advantage of that exclusivity and raising their rates once again. It just seems like they just did that not too long ago. And of course, they're really, the satellite tier, they're really jacking that up. They're $2.65 a month. And another one they're raising is the Basic service, that's going up 33 cents, and the in-home terminal is going down 14 cents, and the TV marquee, they're taking away one of your channels and raising it 4 cents. But they're justifying it by saying that it's because of, due to inflation, programming costs, expenses related to the upgrade of the system, and installation time charges. So, the thing is the city council has to look very seriously when their contract comes up for renewal of allowing either another system to come in here or to have several systems that the city
Right.
city people can choose from, Fred, so that they're just
Yes.
not stuck with one monopolistic, socialistic system to choose from. There is no choice right now. It's kind of like
Right.
the electricity. All you got is Northern States Power. So they need to bust up these monopolies, Fred. They did it with the phone system, and now finally you got 15 cent a minute phone charges from AT&T because of competition. It took many years to bust up that monopoly, but they need to do it in the system of cable, because with computers coming online where you can get computer service through the cable system, and you're going to be able to get telephone service through the cable system, they need to break that up and break up that monopoly and give more competition. Now, Roy, yeah, we have people, phones are ringing, and of course the number is on the old cow phone. Right here's the old cow phone, and that number is 839-6261. And of course, if you want to send us any messages through email, you can always write to us at cows@discover-net.net, and that mailbox is open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year for your email pleasure. So don't forget to write us out there. And of course, we had another letter here, and it says, "Dear Fred, my girlfriend wants to know if you're single or not. What's the story?" Signed, Sally.
You know the answer. Now, I'm married.
Okay, Sally, unfortunately Fred's married, so you're going to have to chase around somebody else. Betty, don't get jealous there now. Freddie over there got girls writing email messages to him. It's kind of like in school when Fred used to take the girls' pigtails and stick them in the inkwell and then laugh about it.
I didn't do that.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Chuck.
Hello. How are you tonight?
I'm fine. How are you?
Great.
My name's Josh Mackneck, and I've got a couple points to see what you think about this. What do you guys think about Clinton's new Counterterrorism Act that pretty much destroys the First and Fourth Amendment?
Clinton's Counterterrorism Act. First Amendment is
I don't like it.
free speech,
Yeah.
and the Fourth is what? Right to is it keep and bear arms, or is that the second?
No, second.
What's the Fourth?
That's the right to assembly, I think.
Okay, so it did take away some of our basic civil rights, and this came out of the bombing in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that's right.
And the scare tactics, and of course Clinton at the time accused TV talk show hosts like me and radio talk show hosts like Rush Limbaugh and just a plethora of all the radio talk show hosts. Clinton blamed the bombing on us, people that like to have freedom of speech and talk back and forth and talk about issues like arenas that are favored by the elitists in the area because they can afford to pay the higher taxes. And so in the name of safety, they're taking away some of our basic rights that are given to us by the Constitution. And of course, Republicans and Democrats voted for it and dropped it in Clinton's lap, and of course he signed it into law. Now the thing is to see how hard the iron fist comes down on the average citizen and what he can and can't do. And of course, you saw what the government was capable of in Waco and in Ruby Ridge, and of course recently down in Atlanta, how they picked on that guard down there and just picked at him and picked at him. They had the wrong guy from the beginning, but the FBI didn't want to come out and admit it, so they kept trying to dig and find anything on this guy to make him a scapegoat. The guy was totally innocent, and they drug it on, and I hope the guy sues for $100 million because it ruined his and he could have been murdered by somebody that was at that where that bombing was, and that bomb that went off in that park. some disgruntled family member could have came up and murdered him, and here he was innocent. Maybe that's what the FBI was hoping, that he'd be rubbed out so that they could save face. But finally, they had to tuck their tail between their legs and admit once again that they had the wrong person.
Damn straight.
And so now, with these new laws going into, they are in effect now, and people like Bob Dole and them voted for him, and Newt Gingrich helped push it through the House, and Dole helped push it through the Senate, and now we're stuck with it.
Yep. And when you guys called the local cable company in town socialistic, I don't see how you come to that conclusion.
Because there's only one of them.
Isn't that more capitalistic?
No, a socialistic monopoly is what it is.
But isn't
Because there's no
capitalism thrive on a monopoly?
capitalism is not a monopoly. In capitalism, there'd be 5 cable systems vying for your business. Here you have a socialistic monopoly. There's only one cable system that you can go to.
Oh.
That's why they can artificially keep their rates sky high and then with impunity raise their rates.
You're smart.
Yeah, they are. They're jacking it up there.
And I was wondering, could I join the the Loyal Order of the Raccoon if I sucked you off?
Okay, well now Fred is the membership chairman of the Loyal Order of the Raccoons, and Freddie is who you'll have to discuss with if you want to join.
Yeah.
Fred agreed that now Fred, are we going to let Betty in or not?
No.
You're not going to let Betty join, your own wife?
No.
Well, you know, with the new Supreme Court laws and such, and the rulings that they've handed down, you can't have a good old boy system anymore. It's going to be good old boy and good old girl now.
We got plenty of good old boy systems out there. We might as well keep this as a good old boy system.
Well, you know, last week, Fred, we were discussing how the smoke-filled rooms and the local powers that are, they sit in their smoke-filled rooms and they smoke cigars. And of course, that's the only way you can tell whether they're communist or not, Fred. You got to find out if they're smoking Cuban or Miami cigars. If we're smoking Miami cigars, they're not communists. But the ones you want to watch, Freddie, are the ones that smoke those Cuban cigars. That's how you can tell the difference. I rest my case. And you know, Freddie, you've been watching that situation down there since 1959.
Yeah.
You were fighting them then, weren't you?
Mm-mm.
How soon did
see
you know
here.
that he was a communist?
What?
How soon did you know that Castro was a communist?
Oh, I knew that before he became the leader down there. He was up in the hills and fighting to take it over, and they bought out generals and whatnot down there.
Well, there you have it. Eisenhower and Nixon, they didn't know what to do. They dumped it in Kennedy's lap, and then we had the Bay of Pigs, and then Kennedy was assassinated. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Chuck.
Hi. How are you tonight?
I'm fine.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
What's
I
up?
was wondering what your position on the arena is.
The opposition on the arena?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of little people out there that just
Little
can't.
people.
A lot of little people out there can't afford any more of these sky-high taxes.
That's right. That's because the elitists are here.
Yeah, there are a lot of people in town that's not going to bother them because, well, of course, if you're paid by, if City Hall pays your salary, Fred, then you can pretty much know that you're going to get enough to pay the higher taxes. And if the school board, if you're making $95,000 a year on the school board, it's not going to affect you that much to pay 7% more in taxes. Or if you're on the county board and you're making $85,000, $90,000 a year, not on the county board, but helping run the county government. Or if you're in the unions that control the labor force for the city or the labor force for the county or the labor force in the school system, then you can pretty much adjust to it. You can just go through your union, demand higher pay next year.
Yeah.
But in the case of the little guy out there that's getting maybe a 2 or 3% increase in their monthly or their paycheck for 1997, or say you're on Social Security and you're only going to get a 1 or 2 or 3% cost of living increase, that cost of living increase just keeps you level with inflation. It never keeps you ahead of inflation.
I know it.
So by the end of next year, you're going to be behind inflation again until you get your next increase. So the people on Social Security, fixed incomes, and those that aren't fortunate enough to be on the be in the public system where they're getting paid with tax dollars. They're the ones that can't afford this, Fred, and that's the majority. They can't afford these higher taxes, and of course there are a few out there that can. So unfortunately, once again, the ones that can least afford it are the ones that are going to have to pay in the form of higher taxes. And of course, now with the lottery tax credit shot down, I'd like to hear what those politicians in Madison are going to do with all that money, Fred.
Yeah.
You think they're down there carving it up like a Thanksgiving turkey, or what?
They can spend it.
You think they're going to spend it on some more frivolous, bureaucratic baloney down there?
We'll find out.
You know, there was a feeble attempt by Prosser down there to cut into the budget of the people that are elected to go down there. You know, the budgets for the assemblymen and the state senators and whatnot down there, and for their staffs and all of the freebies they get and all the special benefits and the retirements. But that kind of fizzled out, and they're spending just as much or more than ever down there. Maybe they're going to carve that up and to give themselves better benefits, Fred, do you think?
Maybe.
All right, well, what do you got there on the hunt for right-wing terrorism?
Well, there's several cases that the federal government was interested in prosecuting, and the judges let them go.
Huh. Well, you know, going along with that, Fred, is I get a newsletter from the Anti-Defamation League, and they've got a new brochure out that tells about a parent's guide, help your child safely navigate the internet. And you can write off or call for this brochure, and it's an 800 number. It's 1-800-343-5540, and it'll tell you what's out there as far as hate groups that are on the internet that your children might be reading and studying on the internet without your knowledge. A parent's guide, help your child safely navigate the internet. And it'll tell you about some of the different groups, and hopefully it'll have groups from the left and right on there. But that's the Anti-Defamation League, and if you do have a computer and you're on the internet address for the Anti-Defamation League is www.adl.org. www.adl.org, and that's the. And in their latest newsletter, Fred, they're telling about some of the hate groups now that are getting on the internet and pushing their hate, and it's becoming big business to be on the internet, and with what 40 million people on the internet worldwide, that's quite an audience if they can just get people to tap into their particular homepage is what they call it. And so there's several new homepages out there, and Tom Metzger, he's one of the longtime racists in the country, and he has one called War. And it's called This is a White Racist Web Page, and that's run by Tom Metzger. And then there's another one by a guy named Don Black, who was he was in federal prison for 3 years during the 1980s for conspiring with a group of fellow white supremacists to overthrow the government of a Caribbean island called Dominica. And now he's came back out, and he's got a web page called Stormfront, which is right out of some of the Nazi literature of World War II. And of course, the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan have a home page, and the National Alliance, another right-wing group, has a home page. And there's several of them blossoming out there, Fred. Of course, people buy some of the pamphlets and stuff that they have available, so it's getting to be big business out there. So if you'd like to study up on some of the hate groups out there, once again, you can call. Well, there's the right on the old TV there, the email or the homepage address, and of course that starts with an HTTP : and then 2 forward slashes, and then www.adl instead of AEL, it's ADL.org. There it is. And Roy Rogers Hoff is on the ball, I'll tell you. You can't let many mistakes go by him for very long, Fred, and he catches them. And Roy's been with us now for 20, 25 years, making sure that all the engineering goes right on the old channel here. KGB director, or contributor, I should say. Before the presidential election, the Democratic National Committee admitted Grigory
Chansky, a Russian businessman who heads up a suspected KGB front in Vienna called Nordex, attended a major fundraising dinner with President Clinton. In the July 8th issue of Time magazine report that many law official agencies around the world regard Laut Chansky as the most pernicious unindicted criminal in the world.
Huh. Well, Fred, going right along with that, you ought to remember this, on December 2nd. Of course, there are a lot of communists out there, and a lot of them are out of work right now. A lot of the KGB agents are refocusing, and they're getting into different areas. They're going into espionage against businesses like Microsoft, and they're stealing industrial secrets for their homelands. But in 1859, Fred, on December 2nd, this man was hanged in Charlestown, Virginia, for his role in the raid on Harper's Ferry in October of 1859.
I know who that is too, and I can't think of his name.
Here lies his body, smoldering in the ground.
Yes, I know.
John Brown.
Oh, John Brown is right.
1859, he was hung on this date. And of course, he was against slavery, wasn't he? He started a raid there at Harper's Ferry to try and get the Civil War going, and of course, a year later it was gone. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, how are you tonight?
I'm fine. Have you heard about this new political faction coming to Eau Claire?
No, I haven't.
It's called the Anarchist Youth Federation.
Anarchist Youth
What do
Federation.
you think about that, big guy?
AYF?
Yep.
Anarchist Youth Federation.
What do you think about that?
Well, anarchists don't like to take orders from anybody, so how they get an organization together?
Hey, that's what I'm asking myself. And but no, seriously, what do you think about that, big guy?
Anarchy is a lack of any kind of government. They don't want anyone telling them what to do. They're a little bit to the left of what's that other political party that?
Libertarian?
Libertarian, yeah, they're a little more to the left. Libertarians want government out of...
My question is, Chuck, what do you think about that?
What do I think about the Anarchist Youth Federation?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Fred. I'll tell you, during the late 1800s and into the early 1900s, anarchists were going around the world assassinating leaders of countries, and it ended up dovetailing down into the beginning of World War I with, I think it was Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated over there in Yugoslavia, Fred, where they had the Olympics later on, but that was the beginning of over there where Serbia, where it's a hot button now, was where the flashpoint was for World War I, and anarchy is not a good thing to let flourish in this country, and because it's total chaos, and it's a lot of cowards running around bombing people, bombing buildings, and assassinating public figures, and then kind of slipping back into the woodwork. So it's not good for anybody or any country, Fred. We need laws, and we have a constitution that we need to go by, and if they just leave the constitution alone and allow people their certain inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we won't need anarchists. What do you think about that, Fred?
Yeah, that's good. I see here in the November 3rd issue of the Pittsburgh Tribune Review, I'll visualize a picture of the First Lady, Rodham Clinton, warmly greeting a leader of the American branch of the Radical Islamic Terrorist Front Group.
Okay, well, Fred, in 1868, I didn't think this was right. I thought Jefferson Davis was killed right after the Civil War for his part of the Civil War, leading the Confederacy.
No, I don't think he died years later.
Well, in 1868, he's tried for treason, according to this, on December 3rd. And of course, later on, we have another Davis who causes a lot of trouble and who's a radical, and that's Angela Davis.
Yeah.
So there must be something about that name. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Doc. I'm not a regular viewer, as you might know, but I was just wondering, I see sort of a a beer can dangling from your ear there? Does that have some sort of significance? I was just wondering about that.
Well, over in California, everybody on Sunset Boulevard is wearing these, and of course, California is kind of where things like this started. I remember back in the 60s, I remember somebody coming from California back to Illinois, and he had an earring in his ear, and everyone laughed and said, that'll never make it to Illinois. He says, you watch, in a few years, everybody in Illinois and all over the country will be wearing, especially men will be wearing earrings in their ears, and sure enough, within a couple of years, a lot of people were wearing earrings in their ears.
Is that why you're wearing earrings?
So now,
in your
Fred,
ear?
this has started on the West Coast, and you watch, Fred, within a couple of years, everybody in the Midwest will be wearing this here style.
So you're starting a fad then, is that it?
Well, actually, it's already started on the West Coast, and so I'm just trying to keep ahead of the wave there a little bit.
I was wondering also, in America, now when you wear an earring in your right ear, doesn't that usually mean you're a homosexual?
Well, actually, on TV, though, it's on my left there, isn't it? Isn't that it? If you're looking at TV right there, if you're looking at your TV at home right now, isn't it on the left? Of course, that's all semantics anyway. This is a new popular thing here, and from what I understand, Fred is trying to take back that thing from the homosexuals, and so where you can wear it in either ear. And I think that's all a myth anyway. Okay, Fred, they're gone off the air there. I guess they couldn't stand the truth. And you know, Harry Truman said, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And of course, over in Japan, he showed them, didn't he? He showed them how much heat was in the kitchen.
Yeah. So, you know, here we got something in the New American Magazine, and in the September 25th, Los Angeles Daily News reported that 5,000 applicants for a dozen openings in the Ventura County Fire Department, California. 11 men and 1 woman survived the cut after extensive training procedures, and the 12 successful applicants passed the tests: a physical agility test, a medical exam, a psychological word-up, and a criminal background check. One problem emerged, however, and that was the finalists did not meet the county's federally mandated action program goal of reflecting the ethnic makeup of the community. So the Ventura County
we get a close-up of that there, Roy?
Discharged all of the applicants, and in the search of a more diverse pool of potential firefighters.
Well, that's amazing what those firefighters will do once you give them a chance, Fred. They can put out a fire anywhere. Roy's going to get a close-up of this here, and we're going to show what... Now, you just brought it up earlier, Fred, and you got your statistics there on how many pro-life people voted for Clinton.
Yeah.
And we're going to show what the procedure that Clinton vetoed. So he's allowing, in other words, he allowed to say a law of the land where they will allow these partial birth abortions. And so we have a diagram here of, and Roy's going to get a close-up here, a diagram of the procedure that Clinton allowed to stand. And even in the face of that, Fred, how many pro-life Christians voted for Clinton? You had the statistics there. Fred will be bringing those up here in a second. And while we're getting a close-up on that, I want to also remind you that when I brought it up about city planning to reassess property values in '97, they're saying that the property values could rise 20 to 25% on your home, Fred. So they could jack up your property value 25% from what it is now.
Right.
Say it's $100,000 now, it could go up to $125,000, so that they can grab you by the throat and demand those taxes. And if you don't give them up, they'll just take your house away from you and sell it at auction. Okay, here's the procedure here. This is called the partial birth abortion procedure. And what it is guided by ultrasound, the abortionist grabs the baby's legs with a forceps. And of course, that's the baby's legs right there. And this usually somebody that's not a medical doctor. It could be a nurse or somebody that runs the abortion clinic. They grab the The abortionist grabs the baby's legs with a forceps. The baby's leg is pulled out into the birth canal of the female, of the mother. The abortionist delivers the baby's entire body except for the head. So you can see there where the whole body is pulled out of the womb and is hanging out outside of the mother, out in the abortuary in the operating room, or the room where they do the abortion. So the full baby is pulled out except for the head. The abortionist jams scissors into the baby's skull, and the scissors are then opened to enlarge the hole. They make a hole in the baby's skull with scissors, Fred.
Yes.
And then a suction tube, which you see right here, is inserted into that opening in the baby's skull, and the child's brains are sucked out, causing the skull to collapse. And then the dead baby is removed out of the womb. In other words, the head then is pulled out. And that's how they do it, and that's what Clinton kept on the books. Now, I've got something here in conjunction with that, if I can find it real quick. And I don't think I'm going to be able to find it, Fred, but oh yeah. Fetal cells help restore some sight to blind eyes. So in other words, they're taking these fetal brain cells and eye cells out of these babies, and they're harvesting them now, and they're using these cells to try and do things like restore the sight to blind people, and they're doing it in Alzheimer's research. And it sounds so noble that we can make somebody see again, or somebody that has Alzheimer's to remember again. But what about the millions of babies that are being sacrificed every year, and the thousands of babies on this fetal partial birth abortion that are harvested, their brain cells and their eye cells, Fred? It's a shame that we've stooped that low in this country now to where we're actually harvesting human beings to help other human beings. We're taking live human beings and we're harvesting them as we do crops like corn, and then we're taking those cells and injecting them into other people. It's amazing.
Here's on the voters, all voters that voted for Clinton, 45% were pro-life and 35% voted for Dole, and 35% voted for Clinton. Women, 50% of the women that voted were pro-life voted for Dole, and 39% who were pro-life voted for Clinton.
Okay, so 39% of the women that are pro-life voted for Clinton. Isn't that amazing, Fred?
Yes.
And then the pro-life movement wonders why they're in trouble, and they can't get anything done. With that kind of voting record, there's a lot of work to be done, Fred. And when you're doing Nazistic type operations like that and sucking the brains out of babies, and then people are voting for a guy that allowed that to stay on the books, Fred, even in the face of pro-life Democrats saying, strike it down, don't do that procedure anymore. Even in the face of that, Fred, it still is on the books as law. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, I think that procedure that you're talking about is not practiced too often, and when it is practiced, it's practiced because there's a problem with the birth. That's a highly practiced procedure. I think
in New Jersey, over 1,000 people had that done to them in one clinic.
Yeah. I don't think you really know.
Well, you don't, caller, you just don't want to believe it. You don't want to believe it. I've told Common many times, Common won't believe it. Common, why won't you believe it? You got Common sitting right here. He's loaned us his head, Fred.
Yeah.
His body's sitting at home and his head's here. He just sits there silently and allows that procedure to continue. And if Common will allow it, Fred, then there's no wonder 39% of the women will allow it.
Oh, here CNBC cancels Cal Thomas's show.
Huh. I guess he was too doggone conservative for him. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, did you know that the 2,000 of the 25,000 troops that were sent to Bosnia were women, and that 70 of those women were sent home because they were pregnant?
Well, when you put men and women together, that's what happens.
Well, they had to, those women had to, do it with those greasy Bosnians.
Well, I don't know about that. In a lot of cases, it was just procreation between male and female Army, American troops over there, but that's part of the problem with having a mixed military like that. And that's what people have been talking about for years, Fred. Don't mix it up. Don't put women on the front lines like that, and you're going to have problems. And that's just part of it. But Bosnia is another whole subject, and like we said earlier, that was a flashpoint for World War I, and that area played a major role in World War II, and we'll probably see it again in World War III as one of the flashpoints where we could have much problems because you have Protestants, Catholics, Muslims right there at each other's throat, Croatians, Serbs, and it's just a flashpoint.
All right.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air. You might have to turn down your sound on your TV a little bit. Whoops, we lost him. He'll call back in a minute there. Okay, Fred, so there we have that procedure that people have been asking, well, what exactly is the procedure and how does it work? And it's being done in thousands upon thousands of women yearly in this country, and that's one of the reasons why Clinton knuckled under to the pro-abortion forces, because it is a procedure that is done, and there's a lot of money involved in it. And of course, the harvesting of those cells, the abortion clinics can sell those brain cells for many, many thousands of dollars, Fred.
Senator Feingold being questioned.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, can you repeat that web page site?
On the ADL?
I think, yeah.
The Anti-Defamation League? Okay, yeah, they do have a website on the internet, and they have this brochure called Warning Hate Zone, a Parent's Guide. Help your child safely navigate the internet. And the homepage for the Anti-Defamation League is http://www.adl, which stands for Anti-Defamation League.org, which stands for...
Was that orgy?
All right, there you have it. And of course, Fred, this brochure is something for parents so that they can find out a little bit about what their children are studying on the old internet.
Yes.
Fred, here's the headlines of the Citizens Intelligence Digest. It says Clinton sold state jobs for cash. Top Democrat charges money laundering by Branscombe and Hill. Burt Dickey III helped launder money into the Clinton campaign during the 1990 governor's race. According to Dickey, the funds being laundered came from the sale of state commission appointments by then Governor Clinton. So the good old boys down there smoking them cigars down there in Arkansas are still in business. All right, Freddie. Homeless Vets Concern Group. Survey says 1 in 3 seeking shelter in the homeless shelters served in the military. While we allow millions of aliens come into this country, we don't take care of the veterans that fought and were wounded, and many of them died for America. Project Lucid is here. The Beast 666 Universal Human Control System is on the way, Fred. And of course, tied in with that is the injecting into the body of the little transmitter that they're putting into animals right now, and that'll be tied into that. And that newsletter called Flashpoint, a newsletter ministry of Tex Mars, comes out of Austin, Texas, and he talks about Lucid, L-U-C-I-D system. The Beast 666 Universal Human Control System is on the way, Fred. All right. Another thing is Steve Gunderson is having his farewell swan song tour December 2nd, which is today, December 3rd, 4th, and 5th and 6th, and that came out in his legislative update newsletter. And of course, he sends out thousands of these at the taxpayers' expense to tell us about his swan song tour, farewell tour, with the guy he helped elect, Ron Kind, the Democrat he helped get in office. So those two will be chumming around on Steve Gunderson's farewell tour. Okay, one of the outrages of the week was the Leader Telegram. On the Friday, November 29th, 1996 issue, on the opinion page, taking on tobacco firms, we applaud State Attorney General James Doyle for deciding to join 18 other states in a lawsuit against the tobacco industry, blah, blah, blah. Given that tobacco-related health effects kill more than 400,000 people a year in the United States, Doyle and his colleagues are right to do everything they can to highlight just how insidious the habit is. And of course, for many, many years, the Leader Telegram pushed cigarettes and cigars and tobacco and chewing tobacco in the
Yes.
Leader Telegram advertising.
Bye now.
So we want to thank you for tuning in, and of course, we want to thank Fred once again for the many, many hours of work in nurturing those rubber trees over the years to bring those to this country and getting them out of Vietnam so that we could set up the tire factory there after it folded.
I never was over there.
Thank you again, and we want to say adios, amigos and amigas. We'll see you right here again next time. Happy Thanksgiving. Black.